Judaism. Probably outside of your own religion, the religion that you're most familiar with, of the others that you've studied here. But contrary to your perceptions, relatively speaking, Judaism is significantly smaller than you might imagine. However, its history goes back almost 4,000 years. And for those of you who are Christian, it is significant for you to understand Judaism because, in fact, Christianity grew out of Judaism from the first century on. In fact, Jesus and all of his disciples and the early founders of the church were all Jewish. The New Testament writers came from Jewish backgrounds. I'm often surprised that many Christians aren't even aware of that. Judaism has had a significant impact on American and Western culture, as well as Christianity, and so it behooves us to understand something about Judaism, not as it existed 2,000 years ago through the lens of early Christian history and the New Testament, but as it exists today. Judaism has changed significantly in the last 2,000 years, but Jews tend to blend in with the people in their society, and you really can't tell who is Jewish just from looking. The stereotypical Jew with the big black hat and the curly hair and the beard, those are the Hasidic Jews, but the vast majority of Jews look just like anyone else. What probably stands out as most interesting about Judaism is that it isn't really focused on the afterlife. It's much more focused on how we live this life. Traditional Judaism, and by that I mean pretty much the Orthodox and the more conservative traditions, follow commandments that God gave in the Torah, and in fact there's not just 10 commandments for those Jews, there's about 613 of them to be precise. The Torah actually is a text that would be quite familiar to most Christians because it is in fact the first 5 books of the Bible. Another little tidbit that many Christians may not realize is that Jews do in fact use the same Bible that Christians use, except they don't have the New Testament part added to it. For Jews, the Bible is simply what Christians refer to as the Old Testament. For those students who may be Muslim, it's also interesting to note that Judaism and Islam have a lot in common, perhaps more than you might imagine, and despite the conflicts in the Middle East between Jews and Muslims, which I like to think of as more political and less religious in nature, Jews and Muslims ought to get along better with each other, and if they just knew more about each other's religions, they just very well might. So I hope you will enjoy your study of Judaism, learn some interesting things, and make some interesting observations about how its beliefs and practices may parallel those of your own religion. I look forward to reading your thoughts on what you've learned once you get to conclusion and write your response and reflection paper on this religion.